I grew up on a piece of property my grandfather bought in the 1950s, a beautiful stretch of wooded land with a calm blue lake running through it. On that lake, there was a sturdy old wooden bridge my father built by hand when I was a kid. It wasn't just a way to cross the water, it was where we fished in the summers, where we sat on late evenings to watch fireflies, and where my kids learned to skip stones. The bridge connected my property to a hiking trail on the other side, and for decades, nobody bothered us. Then came the new Homeowners Association. They had recently developed a luxury lakeside resort community on the other side of the water. They called it Lakeview Paradise, but to me, it was the start of a nightmare. Within weeks of moving in, their board members began suggesting I let them maintain the bridge, claiming it was community property. I told them politely, "It's on my land. It's my family's bridge. Hands off." They didn't like that answer. The HOA wasn't used to hearing no. Their $4 million resort attracted wealthy outsiders, and they wanted everything around it to look like part of their property. One morning, I walked down to the lake with my coffee and froze. The bridge was gone. It wasn't damaged. It wasn't washed away by a storm. It had been completely dismantled. Every plank, every nail, gone. A week later, the HOA president smugly told me they had removed an unsafe structure, and that the lake view is much better now without it. I reminded him again that it was my property, and that they had no right. He shrugged and said, "Then sue us. But by the time you do, your little bridge will be firewood." They thought I'd be intimidated. They thought they were untouchable. They were wrong. What the HOA didn't know was that my property line didn't just include part of the lake, it included the dam at the far end of it. It wasn't a massive hydroelectric dam, just a small, old structure my grandfather built to control the water level for fishing and irrigation. But it had one very important feature, a large manual sluice gate that could release the water downstream. For years, I kept it closed, maintaining the lake's depth for my own enjoyment, and, unintentionally, for the HOA's shiny resort. When they destroyed my bridge, they destroyed the last piece of my patience. I checked the property deed, confirmed my legal rights, and began to plan. At dawn, I walked to the dam with a wrench in my hand and a camera in my pocket. I filmed myself unlocking the control box, turning the wheel, and slowly opening the sluice gate. Within minutes, the water level began to drop. By afternoon, the once glittering lake had shrunk into a muddy basin. The private beach the HOA advertised to its wealthy guests was now a cracked shoreline littered with fish flopping in shallow puddles. Their expensive dock sat on dry land, tilting awkwardly. The smell of wet earth filled the air. I didn't touch their property. I didn't trespass. I simply restored the lake to its natural downstream flow, which, according to my rights, I was allowed to do. The HOA was in chaos. Guests demanded refunds. The resort had to cancel events, including a $20,000 wedding. Property values in Lakeview Paradise plummeted overnight. They threatened to sue, but my lawyer simply presented the deed and the environmental clearance that allowed me to regulate the water. The HOA had no legal standing. Instead, they tried to negotiate. They'd rebuild my bridge, apologize, and even pay for aesthetic improvements if I'd close the dam again. I agreed, but with one condition, a signed legal agreement stating they would never interfere with my property again. They signed without hesitation. 2 months later, my bridge was rebuilt better than before. The lake refilled, the resort recovered, and the HOA learned the hard way, you don't mess with someone who controls the water. And now, every time I walk across that bridge, I smile, because I know that if they ever step out of line again, I can turn their $1 million paradise into a mud pit overnight.